Hi everyone, I'm Lorraine Driscoll, founder of Building Better Brains, and as promised last time, I mentioned that I would be talking about how to put the pause button on the overeating, and I don't have any quick fixes. I'm going to tell you that right now because what we're dealing with right now in the world and in terms of overeating goes much deeper than what people think. So people think that it's because we're bored and we're home and so forth. And definitely that plays a role. I don't want to discount that. But I think that if we just blame that then we totally miss out on an opportunity to actually get on top of or address the overeating and so forth. So way before I started specializing in children and nutrition, I actually used to specialize in eating psychology and emotional eating and so forth. And one of the game changers for me was learning, the reason I went into eating psychology and started specializing in that was because I realized I can give my clients meal plans all I want and everything else, but if we're not addressing the underlying reasons why people self-sabotage and overeat and so forth, then the meal plan's not going to help much. And so I came across several different authors, specialists, experts, whatever you want to say, in eating psychology. One of them is John Gabriel, who has an incredible story. Check out the John Gabriel method if you are interested in that. And he was severely or morbidly obese. And I can't remember what exactly made him realize what was truly going on. I think it had something to do with he had a dog that had a trauma, and all of a sudden the dog started gaining lots of weight. And he realized, because he had survived 9/11, that there was a connection with him gaining tons of weight. And so there's two things that happen. When we are just traumatized or stressed, we do eat a lot. And it's not just for comfort. Definitely that plays a role. But the other thing is that, and this is again all coming from John Gabriel and other researchers, the other reason why we overeat is because it's our primal brain. And our primal brain, there's two things about our brain, and particularly our primal brain. So our primal brain is black and white. It doesn't think in gray. So it's not going to think in terms of threat, big threat, little threat, so forth. Something's either a threat or it's not. You're either in fight or flight, or you're in rest, digest, and repair, whatever. So you either have your parasympathetic nervous system activated or your sympathetic nervous system activated, which is your fight or flight. There's no in between. And it's really hard to grasp that because, like, if we think of fight or flight, we probably think of like really intense stress. But a lot of us are in a state of chronic stress. And a lot of us right now, this is like serious, right? This is way more than just the chronic stress of the everyday grind. This is like shock, even trauma for some. And for some people who have become experts at repressing their own emotions, which I suffered for years with chronic pain and went to see every chiropractor and physiotherapist until I realized it was me repressing my emotions. So if we're really good at repressing our emotions, then what happens is we don't realize that it's that we don't realize that we're suffering. Like, I know even I talked to quite a few people and they said, yeah, no, I'm pretty cool with the COVID. Like, I'm not really that stressed about the illness. But they said, I just feel so anxious, but I don't understand why. And that's where I would suggest, honestly, as kooky as it sounds, trying a journaling practice. That's honestly what got me out of chronic pain. Nicole Sachs's journal speak is phenomenal for unleashing kind of repressed emotions and bringing them to the surface so you can process and just be rid of them once and for all. And so understanding that we're under a lot of stress, your primal brain is doing something really intelligent right now, even though you might not appreciate it. So right now you're eating a lot and you think it's lack of self-discipline, you're bored, you're being an idiot, whatever. And it's not. What's actually happening is your primal brain believes that it's under stress or is experiencing a threat. And when that happens, what your primal brain's instinct is, oh my God, there's a lack of resources. Because in terms of evolution, whenever there was a stressor or a threat, we would be short often on resources, and our instinct is to load up. And our instinct is also to slow our metabolism down. So that's why you can eat the same diet when you're not stressed. Say in, maybe 3 years earlier, you're not stressed, you've been following that diet, you're following the same diet, and all of a sudden now you're gaining weight and you're counting calories and it's not working. And that's really what it has to do with is chronic stress. Blood sugar instability, insulin levels going up, cortisol levels going up, adrenaline, a whole mess of hormones, and so forth. So the one other thing I want to mention is the brain does not know the difference between a perceived stressor and a real stressor. And we know that my husband and I watched a really scary movie a few nights ago, and we both couldn't sleep. Like my husband, which is really unlike him, had never had problems sleeping, was up till 3 a.m. But it was like a 3-hour thing, and we were like into it. And that just goes to kind of give you a slight idea of how the brain does not know the difference between a perceived stressor and a real stressor, and why it's important to be aware of that and the effect that it's having. So say you have this fear in the back of your mind, you're worried that something really bad is gonna happen. But it seems so far out or so exaggerated and so forth. Maybe you're worried, like, maybe I'm going to lose my job. The economy is going to totally collapse. Like, it's worst case scenario. And you know that probably that's not going to happen. First of all, the brain is not thinking, that part of the ancient brain or the primal brain is not thinking in shades of gray. If you're thinking that, it's thinking, oh my God, there's a threat. So just keep that in mind in terms of how intelligent your primal brain is, and therefore how you can work with it. So the one thing that I want to start off then is just talking about how can we then shift that. This doesn't mean that we necessarily, I think first of all, we need to be like forgiving with ourselves and understanding and compassionate of what's going on. I really suggest if you're someone who represses, and if you are someone that represses, you will know that, because you will do things like, you will experience things like chronic pain. The other thing that can happen if you repress emotions is you'll have like trouble sleeping, a lot of fatigue, irritability that comes from nowhere, even anxiety that you just think is just this weird kind of physical anxiety. So, kind of to have that awareness. So whether you repress or you don't repress, whatever the case may be, if you're having a hard time overeating, maybe you're in fight or flight, you don't need someone to tell you to start unleashing stuff because you're quite aware of that. The key is to try to calm the nervous system down, to take it out of the fight or flight, to get it into the rest and digest, or rest and repair, and so forth. So how do you do that? So there's several ways to do it. I'm going to suggest a few. I'm going to tell you right off the bat the first 3 things that I do. So many people who have been watching my videos for a while know that I struggled most of my life with a pretty severe anxiety disorder. And I feel like for the most part, I'm recovered from that. I'm not on any medication. And the 3 things that work for me that I do almost every day is I journal for 20 minutes, and I do something called journal speak, and it's dumping. It's not a journal I'm keeping for a family to read. I do not want anyone to read that. So I literally just unleash everything, exactly as Nicole Sachs says to do in her program. I write who I hate, even if it's just in that moment. I write the most awful, terrible things, which a lot of us are like, oh my God, I can't do that. I swear, I curse, I let it all out. And then you just rip up the paper, burn it, whatever. If you're doing it right, the writing is so darn messy. No one would be able to read it anyway, but I don't want anyone to come across that. It's not for a record, it's for processing emotionally. So that's the first thing I do, 20 minutes. Then for 20 minutes, I do breath work. I'm a big fan of the Wim Hof method, but Kundalini breath work is another really good one as well, which is very similar to Wim Hof. I do sometimes Kundalini as well. For 20 minutes, and then I meditate for about 15 to 20 minutes. And that helps to calm my central nervous system down big time. Like the difference between not living in chronic anxiety and fear, that's debilitating, and chronic pain. So I would honestly suggest, I know a lot of us have more time than ever right now to try these things, to start putting them to practice, to learn how to do them, right? Some of us have like literally no excuses. And I know that some of us are really busy at home. It doesn't mean because you're at home that I know that some of you have like 3 kids you have to chase after. But if you can find the time, you might find you have more time because things just settle whenever you process and calm that central nervous system down. Or just, calm everything down. So breath work, meditation, obviously exercise, right? I'm a big fan of exercising in nature. I find there's a huge difference if I do a workout in the house versus if I go outside and like get it in a forest or something or near the water. I find it just totally rejuvenating, and there's a lot of science behind that and how the negative ions and so forth that's in nature. It's not as hippy-dippy as it sounds. Yoga is really good at just calming down the nervous system and getting us into the rest and digest. And then even just visualization of more positive things. There's all kinds of like meditation, I guess, type visualizations that you can do on YouTube if you're kind of a total newbie to all of that. Repeating the mantra for a long time. One of the things whenever I started going on that journey of addressing anxiety was I realized for some reason I just didn't feel safe, which I did feel safe, but obviously I always felt like something could go wrong and I had to control everything. So just repeating over and over again, I am safe, I am safe. Like to the point where when I first was doing meditation for 10 minutes or 15 minutes every day, it was just like on the in-breath, I am, on the out-breath, safe, I am safe, I am safe. And I just had to say that over and over again with my eyes closed. So the other thing is, I think I mentioned yoga. Just having a gratitude practice as well makes you realize how much like positive exists in your life, even though it might not seem that way. And also on a more physical plane, if you will, you want to eat nourishing food. I know that we're talking about why we can't stop eating the junk food, but the more you crowd out the junk food with nutrient-dense food, the less you'll crave the other crap. So sometimes we get into cycles where we crave the certain unhealthy foods because our body's actually needing something that we're not giving it. So it'll try and take it from whatever, like chocolate, for example, whenever women are PMSing is really common because they're losing magnesium. And so, you can get that from actually eating magnesium-rich foods, which they say is not chocolate. And then finding other indulgences. So that can calm the nervous system down. Doing like your hobby, whether it's some kind of art, some kind of sport, something that really brings you just absolute joy and bliss. And then going back to healthy food, the one thing you want to make sure of is that you're eating food that has fat and protein at every meal. Obviously, we know vegetables, fruit, all that stuff is good for us. I can't stress the importance, though. Some of us still have that hardwiring, like the fat phobia. That's just totally wrong. That's research. I won't get into it, but that's like totally been blown out of the water a dozen times. Our brain and our hormones need cholesterol. Our hormones are built out of cholesterol. So as long as you're not eating the other garbage, you're not going to have a problem with the fats. It's the type of fats. Animal fats are okay. So you want to make sure that you're getting lots of fat to stabilize those good hormones, and to stabilize, the stress hormones and the blood sugar levels, as well as to help mitigate the problems with the stress hormones. You want to keep your blood sugar balanced, and the best way to do that is a diet that's high in protein and fat. I'm a big fan of the paleo diet, but there's all kinds of different variations of that. And it does not have to be keto. You do not have to do a paleo keto. I do not do well on keto, and a lot of women do not do well on keto for reasons that I'm not going to get into today. So I'll give a couple supplements that I'm a big fan of if you really feel like you need something to kind of just put the fire out for the time being. And so I'm a big fan of GABA, G-A-B-A. It's a neurotransmitter, and you can get it from certain foods, but you can also buy it in supplement form. And I use it whenever I'm having a really stressful, if I'm just kind of going into some kind of weird anxiety cycle for a bit, then I'll use GABA. The other one is L-theanine. I really like that too, and it really helps with focus. It's what's found in green tea. If you tend towards like OCD tendencies, and OCD doesn't mean like just, washing your hands 100 times. It can be just like repetitive thoughts. Inositol can be a good one as well. So those are a few of my favorite supplements. There's definitely others like tryptophan and so forth. If you want to know more about that, the guru on that one is nutritionist Trudy Scott. But basically, that can help to calm things down on a physical level, but you really will not get past the overeating until you calm the nervous system down and you make it feel like you're safe. There's not a lack of resources. We're not going to starve to death this winter. That's what the primal brain is thinking. And that's why telling it I am safe is such a good way to kind of help reprogram it. So that's all I have for now. But thanks for watching, and please share your ideas in the comment below of what you're doing, what's working, what's not, what's stressing you out. And if I can help you, I will do my very best to answer your questions. Thanks for watching.